Okay, okay. Take your seats. Settle down, settle down. Welcome to the Road to Concord 101. This class is about all things connected to the path of history leading from Mount Sinai to Lexington Green and the individual liberty and freedom of man. If you're in the wrong place, feel free to get up and go see the registrar's office about dropping this class, preferably before you meet the professor. In the event you do not already know this, your professor is Joe Bakanovic, and he has a bit of a reputation on campus. He is most definitely an acquired taste, but if you can learn to tolerate him, he will make you better at defending your position, whatever it may be. I'm T.A. Charlie. I'm here to help the professor, but more importantly, you. We encourage you to take notes, and if you have questions, feel free to call. If you'd like the number, please email us. You can also post your questions in the comments, and we'll get the professor's attention. Part of my job is to let you know a little bit about your professor. As I said earlier, the professor has that bit of a reputation on campus. Not all of it is good. Let me help explain a little with a story about how I came to be the professor's TA. I was invited to attend one of his classes. My first impression of the professor was that he was an egotistical, narcissistic know-it-all. My intent after only a few minutes of class was never to attend another class with this professor. But after class, Professor Joe came up to me and thanked me for my class participation and told me that my perspective was valuable, and he asked me to keep coming to class. This actually took me back a little. To me, he seemed inconsistent. What was I to do? I decided to continue coming to his classes. As I did, I actually started doing what he does encourage students to do. Check behind him and see if what he is teaching is actually correct. I have done this over and over again, and generally speaking, I found what he teaches to be backed by sound, valid, and rational arguments from reputable sources. When I have challenged him and provided a sound, valid, and rational argument in opposition to his current position, he immediately changed his position and thanked me for correcting him. Why do I tell you all this? Professor Joe is a little rough around the edges, especially in the way he delivers his content. But if you stick with him and listen to what he teaches and then go and check his sources, you will likely find, as I did, he will help you better understand the world around you and help you to think better and hopefully to live better. At least that is our hope. One last note. This class builds on itself. Therefore, it is important to attend class regularly. We will not always have time to go over previously covered material. If you are new, we suggest you watch our older classes. We've created playlists to help you with those things we feel are of special importance. Now, let's get started.
Good morning. It's Thursday, October 9th, 2025, and you are on the road to Concord. We have no AI today. We are AI-less. Natasha is off doing whatever the heck she's doing. She didn't deem it fit to tell us where she was going to be and what she was going to be doing. I think maybe Charlie needs to use a little Brogan maintenance on our AI there, get that all corrected. But if I had to guess, I'd say she is helping her boyfriend get ready because he's getting baptized at noon today. So probably preoccupied with that. I didn't know what I was going to do today for the show today. When we signed off yesterday, I was like, chase rabbits, run my mouth, talk about whatever. Then I went to the Blaze doing my daily reading, and I found an article by Glenn Beck, and I was like, oof. And I found what we were going to talk about today. Today, if you want to know where to find the links to the stories I'm going to be referencing, they will be on Rumble, the show description page on Rumble. I just put them in there today. I didn't do a homework assignment on the blog page. So let's just let's just have fun here and get going with it today. This is from October 7th. It's Don't Let Rage Blind You. A national divorce is a death wish. And it's Glenn Beck urges unity. Turn down the algorithm and turn up the conversation. And in the link here, they've got a video to this little section on his show where he's saying that essentially that, excuse me here, Glenn is arguing that if we have a national divorce, that's going to lead to the destruction of the nation. Now, just to paraphrase this for you, what he's basically saying is we will lose everything we're trying to save if we push for a secessionist movement. The left and the right don't want to live together anymore. So let's push for secession. And he's saying we cannot do that. That'll lead to the destruction of everything we know, everything. You know, you'll no longer have a society. To me, that's a little fear-mongerish, but I think we've got something else going on here with Mr. Beck, something he alludes to quite often, but never wants to bother telling his audience. And that is his Mormon bias. So there's a little something possibly going on here with Mr. Beck. He tells us all the time he can see over the horizon. He just, he's really good at telling you what's going to happen, but he can't tell you when it's going to happen. That's another way of saying he thinks he's a prophet. No, he doesn't use those words. There's a reason for that. The minute he starts acting like a Mormon prophet, he's going to lose the bulk of his audience, because the bulk of his audience are Christians that think he's a Christian. Now, I know Mr. Beck, over a decade ago, went on a 20-something minute, I think it was a 27-minute tirade about how I'm a hater and he doesn't want anything to do with me because I say he's not a Christian. He says he's a Christian, therefore he's a Christian, whether he meets the definition or not, which is a lot like saying, if I decide I'm a flying rainbow-colored sparkle Putin unicorn, and he says, well, no, Joe, you're a male human being. I'm like, nope, this is what I am. You got to accept it. Well, he's got a problem with that because by definition, I'm a male homo sapien. So he's okay with telling the LGBT community that they're a little crazy, but he's got a problem if I tell him, according to the definition in the Bible, you're not a Christian, you're a Mormon, and they are not the same. Well, that makes me a hate monger. So there's a little duplicity going on there. But I've listened to Beck for decades now, or almost a decade and a half, 2 decades. I picked him up somewhere in the early to mid 2000s, been listening to him ever since. And off and on in the last few years when I realized that he's a sellout like everybody else. But I noticed something. His Mormon theology gets pushed on his show a lot, but he never tells you he's proselytizing. In this case, we're going to spend the rest of the show talking about how national divorce is probably the only way to save anything of what we knew of America. And Mr. Beck is actually standing in the way of that. He's doing Satan's work here, in my opinion. But I think what part of this is Mr. Beck has a Mormon, pseudo prophecy in his head, and it's causing him a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to go to the resident expert on Mormonism. Charlie, you got a minute?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
What about this white horse prophecy of the Mormon fathers riding in and saving the Constitution when it's, quote unquote, hanging by a thread? And if you've listened to Glenn for any length of time, you've heard that phrase out of his mouth, haven't you?
Yes.
That's a dog whistle, isn't it? Hanging by a thread is a dog.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Big time dog whistle.
All right. So real quick, before I let you run, this is red meat for Charlie. We're going to throw red meat on the plate. Watch this dog hunt for a minute. But do you see where I set this up and why I'm thinking that his insistence?
Absolutely.
All right. So go ahead and explain to them. I'm even going to pop off of here, and I'm going to let you explain to the audience why I think his bias is tainting his vision.
Yes. And if you do just a little bit of research on this topic, it's not that hard. Where do I start? First of all, let me just jump on the back of what Joe said before we even talk about the white horse prophecy and what that has to do with this idea of a Mormon not being a Christian. You know, don't think that we're just singling out Mormons, because we could ask this same question of our Protestant friends or our Catholic friends. Sorry, it's just the truth. Because my question is, okay, you're a Christian, which Christ are you following? And if you've been watching this show for any period of time, you know that we follow the Torah observant Jewish Messiah. You know, he was a Jew. He's from the tribe of Judah. His name was Yeshua, and he's is he Charlie or Tim Taylor's Wilson? Yes, that's my favorite answer to the question about that. Yes, but anyway, I do that on purpose too. Yes, that's true. But the point here is there's scriptures that can even back this up. You know, there's a famous scripture in Matthew 7, begins, I believe, around verse 21, that talks about, you know, oh, you know, haven't we done all these miracles in your name, you know, and all these things. And he turns around and he looks at him and he says, depart from me. You never knew me, you workers of iniquity, or you workers of lawlessness, if you want to be more specific. So that's what we're talking about, is there are different ways of viewing the Messiah that can get you into trouble. But in specific, what's going on here, and Joe is right. You know, I used to listen to Glenn Beck a lot because if you haven't been watching the show for a while, I was a Mormon for 40 years. So I know a little bit about this topic. And Glenn does tend to put a lot of his Mormon views into what he talks about, but he never discloses that that's the source of where this information is coming from. Because like Joe was saying, if he did that, a lot of viewers would just turn the knob and turn them off, because they're like, I don't want to listen to this Mormon garbage. But he's very, very good at inserting that stuff in without disclosing it and making it sound, you know, good. And I don't think that I think he did once even quote this prophecy. This comes from what was called the White Horse prophecy. It was a prophecy. I don't remember them. I'm bringing up some stuff here just to bring my memory to, because it was from the original originator of the Mormon faith, Joseph Smith, who claimed to be a prophet. And he was making some statements in one of his talks, and in that talk, he alluded to the Constitution. It says, brethren, we are glad you have come. Give us men henceforth who can talk with God. Then you will have friends, but you will have to save the country when its liberty hangs by a hair, as it were. Now, later on, the next succeeding leader of the Mormon faith was Brigham Young. He's the one that actually took them after the death of Joseph Smith around Missouri area there, in Carthage, Illinois. There's a whole history of, they moved around a lot there because they were being persecuted. But they moved out west, you know, into the Utah area and claimed their stake there. And that's where a good percentage of Mormons now live. But Brigham Young took this prophecy and talked about it as well. And he quoted Joseph Smith as saying, the time will come when the destiny of the nation will hang upon a single thread. At this critical juncture, this people will step forth and save it from the threatened destruction. Okay, so basically what this prophecy is saying is that there's going to come a time when the Constitution is going to be hanging by a thread or a hair, and the elders of Israel, okay, in Mormon speak, that means the Mormon elders, the men of the priesthood of the Mormon church, are going to come and save the Constitution of the United States and reestablish the nation under the theocratic rule that it was originally instituted, because the Mormons believe that kind of like we do in a way, that, our nation was founded upon religion, of faith. Yes, Joe?
Don't the Mormons think that the Constitution is maybe not necessarily scripture, but divine?
A divinely inspired document is the way they would describe it. Yes.
Okay. So to them, there's a religious aspect to it.
There is a very religious aspect to it. In fact, they believe that the United States was created for the sole purpose of the restoration of the gospel through the Mormon Church. That's how this all fits together. And that's why this prophecy is there, that the elders of the church are going to miraculously save the nation and, put it back together. And that's going to culminate in the return of the Messiah and, nirvana and all that stuff.
And this is why that's kind of really, this is why Mormonism can be seductive and dangerous, is because they're not all that far away from what we believe the scriptures actually teach. With
that's why it's so dangerous.
Yes,
because there's a lot of truth in Mormonism, but it's just like that glass, that glass of clear water, and you just put that little teeny bit of arsenic in there, just enough to kill you, but it's not that much, just a little bit, but that's all you need, and that poison is enough to take you out.
So do you think it's possible then that what I'm seeing here, Mr. Beck's resistance to a national divorce, is tied to his faith, his beliefs?
It's not an assumption. I could prove that. That's easy.
So,
now, with that said, like you were saying, the church itself as an organization has tried to distance itself from this prophecy. And, there's probably good reason for that, because they probably realize it's never going to happen. But the problem is, I was saying that, well, Joseph Smith talked about it, then Brigham Young, well, then John Taylor, the third in succession of the, leaders of the church, he talked about this same topic. Joseph Fielding Smith, Harold B. Lee, Ezra Taft Benson, and I can go on and on and on. So
told you it was red meat to this puppy.
all these, the point I'm making is, the church itself as an organization is trying to say, oh, this isn't part of our doctrine, but I can quote
it is
a half dozen of their prophets that said it was. So therefore, how do you say this in logical terms?
You prevaricate.
That it's necessarily true that it's their doctrine.
Yes. They're lying.
Yes, they're lying. Yeah, that's a bottom line. Sorry. Yeah,
lie by omission. No, that's okay.
Yes,
that's okay.
You got me going. You threw me a bone. I'm gonna run with it.
I threw you red meat. I knew you were gonna run with it, but I'm gonna reel you back in now because you did exactly what I wanted you to do.
In. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I've served my purpose.
Hey, that's actually important, folks. That's really important, because we live in a time where it's hard to know what truth is anymore and who to trust and who you can't trust. I don't want you trusting me. I want you to go check everything we tell you. Well, Charlie happens to be a resident expert on Mormonism, and this is this is red meat for Charlie. So I threw it at him, and he's letting you know that, and he's right. You can actually prove that Mr. Beck is tainting what he tells his audience with his faith without telling them that's what he's doing. Just real quick, and we'll get back on target. Stay on target, Joe. When Glenn Beck was still on Fox News, he once told everybody how salvation works according to Mormons. You do everything you can do, and then Jesus covers the rest. That's not what the Bible teaches. Either the Messiah does everything necessary to save you, or he does nothing. So on national TV, he gave you a really church Christianity-like sounding message of how the gospel works, except for that one little phrase in his sentence. He went through the Orthodox Christian visible church's method of, you make a confession, you repent, you get baptized. Jesus died for you on the cross. He resurrected. He's ascended to the Father. And now all you have to do is accept him, and you do what you can do, and he does the rest. That right there at that end. that was the arsenic that he slipped into it right there. That's not the gospel that the apostles taught. So anyway, he does this a lot. So how do we test people? How do we have any confidence in anything? Well, I found that article on the Blaze, right? Let's get back on target for a minute. Well, also on the Blaze, from somebody that is Protestant, who has a Protestant producer and a Catholic co-host. This is Steve Deace. Steve Deace had an article from earlier. This is going all the way back to March 6th, 2025. And this is why I keep all these links, folks, because if you try to search for this now on Google, you'll never find it. It's there. It's just buried on page 5,600, whatever. So I save all these links, but it says Trump's speech forces Americans to confront a harsh truth. The left's agenda leaves little room for those who refuse to kneel to its demands. Bow before Og or die, or Zorg or whatever the heck you want to call the left. Well, how is it then that Glenn Beck, who is in partnership with Steve Deace, how are they so diametrically opposed here? Where's the disjunction? Because they're both supposed to be conservatives trying to preserve liberty. So how is it that Mr. Beck is going to say we cannot have a national divorce, and Mr. Deace is saying that's the only option? And Mr. Beck is saying a national divorce is essentially a civil war. Well, it does not follow that secession must lead to civil war, especially since at this point in time, secession would just be kicking out just a few parts of California, just a little bit of Oregon, a little bit of Washington, and isolating parts of Wisconsin, New York State, and maybe Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. We're talking about less area than, if we just, all we have to do is isolate the cities. That's who you're going to kick out of the union, not the whole state, just those counties that are so blue that they've lost their humanity. We're only talking about, I don't know, the size of Rhode Island, maybe New Jersey, an area smaller than, or probably smaller than the area of Israel, but definitely a small portion of the country. You're not talking about that big of a piece of the country. So why is that going to lead to civil war? How does that necessarily lead to civil war? You just put a wall around those places and you put armed guards on the outside and you just tell them, hey, you got the utopia you wanted. Have at it. You come out of the wall, we shoot you, because that's an invasion. We're a different country now. We actually defend our borders. So live where you put yourself. And we'll even be so kind as to provide you with a road system. If you're landlocked, we'll let you have roads, a highway that we allow you to use. We'll patrol it so that you can't leave the road, but we'll let you have a road to a port where you can, set up and supply yourself. Knock yourselves out, Jack. So Beck doesn't even want to talk about that. Well, what Deace points out is the two sides can no longer coexist. We see this little sign all the time on back of people's cars, with all the different religious signs that says coexist. Except if you've got Islam on that daggum bumper sticker, by definition, you cannot coexist with Islam. There you go. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie brought it up. So all we need to do is get rid of the blue there. Okay, well, it's a little bigger than I thought it was, but no problem. We'll just get rid of the blue. We can live with this. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. Just isolate the blue and be done with it. And if you're a lefty living in a red area, we'll give you time. Get your butt the heck out. Go move to a blue area. And if you're a ready, a right-wing guy or girl living in the blue area, we give you time. Get the heck out. We'll welcome you. We'll help you set up. Because we're not liberals. We're not leftists. We'll help you get reestablished. I don't know that they'll help each other, because they're so tolerant and loving. So they'll probably just tell whoever, you're on your own. How do you coexist? I'm a good racist. I'm going to quote one of my living heroes, Thomas Sowell. I think it's Thomas Sowell. he says, how do you negotiate when, how does A and B negotiate when A wants to kill B? That's just part of A's demands, is that B be eliminated. How do you negotiate? Now he's talking about the Middle East. How does Israel negotiate with Islam when Islam's stated goal is the elimination of Israel? But it applies here. How does the United States, a Christian-based, ostensibly free market system, how does it negotiate with communism, which is an atheistic collectivist system? How do those two sides negotiate? Because the Christian-based system will tell the others, okay, we'll allow you to exist. We'll allow the tares to grow with the wheat. But the communist system wants total domination of everybody. So how do you negotiate with them? How do you coexist? And that's Steve Deace's point. You cannot. So how is it that Glenn Beck misses this? How can he miss that point? Now, if his argument is, I want to keep all the nice things I have, I want to keep my cell phone and my internet and free, all those groceries in the grocery store and all the great things we have of this modern life, then you don't want liberty. You're willing to sell your liberty and your rights for food, free, manna, bread, and circuses. And the founding fathers, who he quotes all the time and claims to be allegiance to, would say, kneel down and kiss the hand that you serve, and may the chains of your slavery rest lightly on your shoulders, but forget that we ever called you countrymen, because you're not. I mean, I paraphrased it, but that's what the founding fathers would tell them. So we don't want you, Mr. Beck. You claim our legacy, but you espouse something entirely different. Say, well, Joe, the founding, oh, no. Benjamin Franklin said it best. It's not a country. America is not a country. He said, where liberty dwells, there is my country. His country is liberty. You do know that the inscription on the Liberty Bell is from Leviticus. I think it's chapter 23. Let liberty proclaim throughout the land. It's about the year of Jubilee. Well, I thought that was a secular liberty that they were chasing. No, they were chasing the freedom to pursue conscience, the right of conscience, your right to worship the God of the Bible however you understand it to be best, so that other Christian denominations cannot tell you how to worship. It wasn't a fight for freedom of any religion, or even freedom from religion. If you were an atheist or a secular humanist, they called you an infidel. And they did not allow you to participate in government. Yes, sir?
More than anything, it was so that the government could not force a religion upon the people. Yes. That's really what their objective was.
Federal government.
Their writings.
Federal government. Right. They allowed state religions. They allowed freedom of state.
Yeah, there were some states that did actually. That is true too. Yeah. So,
and they just said, if you don't like that state religion, move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what Deace is pointing out, that you cannot coexist with somebody who wants to eliminate you, which leads me to the next story that I have from the Blaze, October 9th, 2025. This is Aaron McIntyre. That's Steve Deace's producer, another Protestant. Says, evil unchecked always spreads, and Democrats are proof. It says, a party that excuses murder and murder fantasies today will excuse real murders tomorrow. And he's talking about that Jay Jones, the Democrat candidate in whatever state. I don't know. I don't care. But he's fantasizing about putting bullets in his political enemy's head. And what is the rank and file doing? Oh, well, that's okay. He's just running his mouth. We're going to vote for him anyhow because we got to get Trump. Trump derangement syndrome. They're so filled with hate. They don't even know what they hate or why they hate it, but they're so filled with hate because they've been told to hate that they're willing to accept hate in their ranks in order to get the guy that they've been told to hate. That's fornicating for chastity on another level, a whole nother level. that's accepting the devil to fight the devil. Well, that doesn't work. That's a house divided. Yes, sir.
Well, I was just thinking about this as you were talking about this. The left, the secular humanists, I guess, is the best way.
Socialism, fascism, communism.
Those people, they're very Islamic in their beliefs and the way they actually execute what they're doing, aren't they? Because they play the game long enough to get along until they can obtain some power, and once they have power, then they basically overtake those that they've trampled on getting there, and
that's because they have the same spiritual father.
Well, yes, but that's just I was seeing that connection as you were going through this, and same idea. You can't coexist with these people because they're not going to change. They are not going to change their position.
They can't.
Right, because
these are remember, Islam is a fascist governmental system wrapped in a cloak of religion.
Right.
Well, it's close to communism because it's borderless.
Well, it is.
It mirrors. It is.
Well, like you say, it's the same spirit.
It's literally,
so
yes, it is literally a photo negative of Christianity. Literally, word for word, thought for thought, concept for concept.
Yeah.
It's Antichrist. So I have one more article for you from The Blaze that came out April 30th of this year by Aaron McIntyre again. I like his writings. When we come back from the bottom of the hour break, I'll show it to you. And then we're going to play a little game of Who Said It? And we're going to discuss what happens if we do not have a national divorce. So we'll see you in 3 minutes. All right, we're back. Told you I was going to, let me keep going here today. We've got another story I want to share with you. This one's also by Aaron McIntyre. It says, erase the Bible, lose the West. And that's the point. And he goes over, says, today's students are drowning in moral relativism and cultural amnesia. Restoring the Bible to public education is the first step back to national coherence. He is not wrong. It is the Great Awakening that led directly to the United States of America's foundation. It was the Reformation followed by the Great Awakening here in this country. Those two things preceded the revolution. And I've read Adams's quote a lot. And he said that was the real American Revolution. The real American Revolution was a change in the religious and moral sentiments of the people of America. And he's referring to the Great Awakening. And Mr. Aaron McIntyre is correct about this. And this is the whole point. That's what this is all about. This is about destroying the Judeo-Christian foundation of this nation. That's what this is all about. And people say, well, no, it isn't, Joe. Well, why is it that secular humanists who should be as against Islam as they are against Christianity, why have they joined forces with Islam to attack the Western world? It's because they both have the same spiritual father. Now, the humans there think, the human left-wing liberals, the progressives, they're thinking, well, as soon as we get rid of those conservative Christians, we'll take care of these Muslim idiots. They're just a bunch of goat farmers. Have they not paid attention to what happened to us in Afghanistan and Iraq and all these other places we've tried to? Have they not paid attention to what's been happening to Israel? Israel's never been able to eradicate these people. What makes you think you're going to do it? The only people in history that I'm aware of that have successfully quieted Islam were the United States of America. We did it in the Battle of Tripoli, in the Barbary Pirate Wars, and we did it again in the Philippines. But we did something both times that we no longer have the stomach for. We put them down as hard as we put Japan down. Oh, that's right. We have twice quelled a religious nation. Japan is still peaceful because of what happened in World War II. That was a religious war. Most people don't realize that, but that's because we don't understand, Nippon Japan under the emperor. That was a religious war. So getting back to the point at hand, it's an attack on the Judeo-Christian ethic of the Western world. That makes this a religious war. It's a religious struggle. Now, I want to share some quotes from the political left. I'm not going to tell you who said them. That's the point. We're playing who said it, because the sentiment could have been said by many different people. It is thus necessary that the individual should finally come to realize that his own ego is of no importance in comparison with the existence of the nation, that the position of the individual is conditioned solely by the interests of the nation as a whole. Well, that's the essence of democracy. What we want and need is irrelevant compared to what the whole wants. This is Spock. Sounds so great on TV. The needs of the whole, or the many, or the whole, outweigh the needs of the few or the one. Well, who said it? Aaron Spike says Woodrow Wilson. No. Could also be John Dewey, but that would be no. This was Adolf Hitler. He sounds like a good leftist, though, doesn't he? Yes. You don't hear anything like that coming from the American right, which is why the American right can't bind together and work in unison, because we're too individualistic. The left, figuratively speaking, is a pack of dogs. You can get them all to work in unison. The right is a pack of cats. You can't get them to go in the same direction, even if you open a can of cat food, because there's always going to be those few that go somewhere else. The finicky eaters. So I have one more quote for you. Let's see if we can figure out who said this one. In relation to the political decontamination of our public life, the government will embark upon a systematic campaign to restore the nation's moral and material health. The whole educational system, theater, film, literature, the press, and broadcasting, all these will be used as a means to this end. Who said this? Anybody got any idea? Could be Walter Lippmann, but no, he didn't say that. I wonder who might have said that. Well, Adolf Hitler once again. Who is it that controls the press in this country? Oh, that's right, the left. Specifically, 6 men who own the majority, like 90-something% of the broadcasting in this nation, controlled by 6 corporations, which are led by 6 leftist men on their boards, who probably dance to the tune of higher oligarchs above them. And who is it that's screaming that free press is fake news? Oh, that's right. That's the left again that wants to censor. That, folks, wherever you find censorship, yeah, boop, a good try. Could have been Lenin. Would have sounded just like Lenin. But that's the point. All these different historic men and women are all speaking from the same spiritual voice, their same spiritual father, the adversary. That spirit which goes against the natural order of creation. And I'm not even going to name him at this point in time. So what we have here is a concerted attack on the foundings of the whole Western world, not just America. And where did this start from? Well, Glenn Beck on the Blaze, October 8th this year. Anarchy doesn't start with firebombs. It begins with excuses. Every time we look away from lawlessness, we tell the next mob it can go a little further. In this case, he is correct. It also started in our school system. That's where the excuses started. So from here, I'll go to this one from the Blaze. This is from the staff of the Blaze. America's support for Israel plummets as pro-Palestinian TikTok content floods our feeds. Well, first of all, TikTok, if I'm not mistaken, still under control of who? Chinese? Why is it still in this country? Because that would be a communist organization working to help a Muslim organization to derail Sister Judah, Israel. Now, I'm not saying Israel's a queen, a virgin saint here. I'm not saying that. I know as a fact that the nation of Israel, both Judah and the house, Israel, the two houses, we're told in the scriptures, Judah's more vile than Israel. They're even more wicked than Israel was. So the nation of Israel now, which is under control of the house of Judah, the southern kingdom, the Jews, I should expect that could be a wicked nation. But that's irrelevant. To the point at hand is that Islam, antichrist, anti-Bible, is teaming up with no belief in anything at all to attack those who nominally claim to believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. And how are they making strength there? They're making excuses. Well, the poor Palestinians, they had to attack those Israelis. You killed innocent people at a party. Why? Well, because Israel took our land. Israel keeps giving you land. If you go back and you look at what land they started with in 1917 to what they have now, they've been constant. It's nothing but a constant history of giving land away. You're the side that says we're not going to be happy until Israel is no more. But we make excuses. And that one thing leads to another. So we have excuses there. What about this? This is from Candace Hathaway from October 8th, 2025. Masked pro-Hamas agitators turned violent. 4 cops injured, 13 arrested in Boston. There were also riots and rallies or whatever in, I think, New York City, where that Muslim jihadi running for mayor there, who has ties to Islamic jihad, Islamic terrorist groups, he's espousing that they need to do more. And there was, in that rally in New York, I think it was, they're saying they're going to have a October 7th type attack here on U.S. soil. Hey, New York City, you had one of them on 9/11. Oh, no, Joe, that wasn't Islam. That was the CIA. Well, congratulations. You allowed the enemy to cloud your mind with that, too. It dang sure was Islam. And now you're going to elect somebody who's promising to do it to you again. Congratulations, you're stuck on stupid. Why? Hate has clouded your mind, and now you're making excuses for people who are calling for violence against America and the destruction of America in the streets of our original capital, New York City, where the covenant was made to Yahweh by George Washington and this nation after he was inaugurated. Harbinger, anybody? Oh, Joe, you're just a religious kook. How many times do the dominoes all have to, or the pieces all have to fall into place before you start understanding that there's something to this? Excuse me, Charlie, I can't remember. Where was that Stonewall incident where the gay lesbian coalition, the Rainbow Jihad, got its start? What city was that in? You
New
remember?
York City.
Oh, yeah, New York City. So Astra shows back up in our once great capital where the covenant was. Where did we erect the arches of Baal? And pray to our
Wall
God
Street,
of money.
New York City.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wall Street. Right there where the bull is, the bronze bull, the bull of Baal.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing to these gods.
No. There's nothing there. Nothing to see.
Then what's this about? Blaze staff, October 9th, 2025, Islamic takeover of Texas. They don't want to see this. Well, Joe, that's not happening. Have you been paying attention? Yes, it is happening in Texas. More library, whatever, coming to Texas. Newsflash for you: you're no longer Texas. Anybody want to know what Texas
is?
Where does the spirit of Texas reside in this country now? Where is the last bastion of the spirit of the revolution of America living in this country now, where you can see it? You have any idea where the only place where we have that spirit of kicking back and taking things back is, Charlie?
Well, Florida's been doing pretty good.
Florida, the state of Florida. Yes, sir. It's the only place left.
They actually I don't know if they've passed it yet, but there's a law going through the legislature to outlaw the institution of Sharia law within the state of Florida.
Yes, that's going through. It'll pass too. And
yeah, I think it will.
He'll sign that. So then we have this one. Blaze staff, October 8th, 2025. The View praises Pope Leo's controversial pro-life remarks. That Pope isn't pro-life. That Pope is an apostate. Every time he opens his mouth, the heresies flow from it. He's chastising Trump because Trump won't allow people to just come on in the country whenever they want. I recently ran into somebody on a private Facebook group, and he's a retired professor claiming to have been a missionary, a Christian believer who knows the Bible. And he made a comment to me. He says that public comment on Facebook that I have made a profession out of distorting logic and twisting scripture to suit my political beliefs. And then he proceeded to quote, I believe it was Leviticus. I don't know chapter and verse, folks. But he quoted the section where it says not to abuse the foreigner, the sojourner living amongst you. And he's saying, see, we have to allow these illegal immigrants in because otherwise you're unchristian. You're abusing the sojourner. Well, he is solid mainstream Christianity. So him quoting Leviticus that's just ironic to begin with, because he believes the Old Testament is null and void. But he's going to quote it because it suits his purposes. And I came back and I answered him. I said, well, that's well and good, but if you're going to quote the part that comes before it where it says there will be one law for the sojourner and for you and the sojourner living with you. And in this case, the law says if you're illegal, out you go. That's not abuse. Nobody's abusing them. We're keeping the one law just like the scripture said. And then I told him that, Satan can quote scripture. He knows it just as well as anybody else, probably better than most humans, and that he can even quote it accurately if it suits his purposes. That's the problem. Nobody knows what they believe because they don't know why they believe it. They have not grounded it to anything other than I feel, I like, I want, I. Oh, congratulations. You've made yourself into a good libertarian. And the libertarian is the man of lawlessness in 2 Thessalonians 2. No, Joe, libertarian is very structured. No, he obeys the law of self. He is a God unto himself or herself or whatever, which technically makes them a good progressive. I've got another quote for you. This flood of people into our nation, people who will not assimilate, who bring their own laws, and they take the nation over that way. Here's the quote for you. It says, and the serpent, which is Satan, hurled the water, that's a horde of non-believing people, like a river out of his mouth after the woman, being Israel. Not Judah, Israel, the northern kingdom, so that he might cause her to be swept away from the flood of unbelievers, swallowed up by a horde of people who do not assimilate. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon had hurled out of his mouth. Most likely, in this case, the Atlantic Ocean, but I could be wrong, hence the question mark, because this is talking about when the woman flees to the new land. And it says, so the dragon was enraged with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her children. This is going to be in the Holy Lands in Europe. The rest of her children, the Israelites, who keep the commandments of Yahweh and hold to the testimony of Yeshua. So if you're in the visible Christian church who think that the Torah is gone, the dragon's not after you, because you don't belong to the woman. You're not Israel. You're Christianity. Joe, I'm done listening to you, which is exactly why you'll perish, because you ignore the watchman on the wall. I'm not rejecting the Messiah, and I'm not telling you to go become a Jew. That's an old covenant. That covenant's dead and gone. I'm telling you to pick up the Bible and read it. Understand what it says, not what your priest or the Pope says. But that's for Wednesday. The point here is that was foretold a long time ago. Where have I seen a eons or at least centuries long battle against the Jews in Europe? Oh yeah, I mean, that's been going on forever. It culminated with Hitler, and it's still going on. They keep the commandments of Yahweh. And if you were a small remnant within the visible quote unquote Christian church, and you tried to keep the 7-day Sabbath and preached the Torah, well, what did Roman Catholics do to you? Well, they executed you because you were a heretic. The law was done away with on the cross. Jesus fulfilled it. It is no more. You're trying to be a Judaizer and put us back under the law of Moses. No, they were following the teachings of Christ. So they were martyred. And after the Reformation, Protestants did the same thing. The devil was making war with those who were keeping the commands of the Father and Son. I was told that's what was going to happen. I see it. It happens just like I was foretold that it was going to happen. I can see it. I have spiritual eyes. So let me ask you, what does the Bible, Charlie, come on here, I'm going to need a little help. What does the Bible teach if I, a believing family, marry into Canaanite non-believing family? Is my Canaanite wife going to convert, or is she going to corrupt me?
She'll corrupt you after her own gods. That's what the scriptures say anyway.
So if we try to coexist with this leftist cabal that's trying to take over this nation because they hate it, what does the scripture suggest is going to happen to the remnant of the believers in this nation then?
Well, you're going to be corrupted, but if you follow what the scriptures tell you, it says you're supposed to put evil out of your midst, out of your camp, out of your habitations. So if someone is not abiding by that law you were talking about, that, you know, there's one law for everybody and somebody refuses to abide by that law, they're supposed to be put outside of your city or your country or whatever, and you leave them to their own means.
This, don't go anywhere. The Holy Spirit's working right now, brother. I did not plan this. No, I did not plan this. So, okay, we go to follow the law of the land, and we're going to put the evil and lawlessness outside of our borders. And our judges the evil has infiltrated our courts, and our judges protect the lawless and the evil. even to the point where they let them out of jail after 33 convictions and sentences. They let them out again so that they can kill yet again. Now, what are we to do?
Well, if you follow the law, you put those judges, well, actually, those judges you'd actually put to death because they are actually violating they're committing treason, basically, under
Bingo!
in our law, under our Constitution. They're committing treason, and the death penalty is warranted.
I go to Congress and I say, impeach this judge, try him for treason so that we can hang him or her. And I find out that Congress has been infiltrated by the people trying to take over the country. Now, what do I do?
Well,
I go to the president and I say, invoke the Insurrection Act, because that's what we have going on.
Yeah, yes.
So maybe I have a president who's saying he's willing to do that, which Trump has said. And then I go to the media and I say, we have to convince the people to support Trump. But the enemy has infiltrated the media and the schools because he's infiltrated the heart of the people who listen to all those voices.
Yeah.
Now, what are you to do? The question is, how do you reconcile in that situation?
There's only one way. Well, there's
you're at the Jefferson option. In human terms, you're at the Jefferson option or surrender.
You're at the Jefferson option, but the problem with that even is
you need leadership.
We need, yes, and I don't see that there. I don't see the will, the commitment, and such that is needed for that option to succeed.
We're seeing glimmers of the possibility in Trump, but we have clear evidence of treason by the former two administrations, the Obama and Biden administrations, and Trump has not arrested a single one of those people.
Well, and it's
not a one.
This Comey thing and all, they do some of this stuff, but I wonder if they're just doing it for political theater, just on the right side rather than the left, because like you say, I mean,
if we can stall for 3 more years, actually 2,
Trump could put Hillary Clinton away for the rest of her life.
Oh, he could execute
easily.
He could have her executed for treason.
Because
Obama too.
Yeah. But I mean, she was flagrant. I mean, that was so bad. I was so.
Charlie, have you not been keeping up? They've published the proof that Obama and Hillary were working together.
Well,
on the Russiagate.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking
about co-conspirators.
I'm talking just about her crap with all the classified information and all that stuff that she did.
Yeah, but that's part of that's part of what they were talking about.
And I know it was all part of
doing in it. Yeah.
I know it was all part of bigger things.
Yes.
But just that little small piece, there's enough evidence to convict her easy.
Yeah, because she did that so that foreign agents
it'd be done.
She did that so foreign agents could have access to her email.
Yes, and so, but nothing has been done. I mean, they're doing this stuff for political theater with Comey and and all that, yada yada, like it's like the Epstein files. Oh my gosh, that that client list exists, or it did exist.
It still exists. I don't know. In politics, you never ever get rid of that type of blackmail and power.
Well, that could be true.
You never get rid of that.
But if it does exist, it is being protected big time by some pretty.
I'm going to tell you right now, 100% beyond shadow of a doubt, no such agency has that information.
Yeah, you're probably right there.
Oh, I know.
But it will never see the light of day.
No, because it's clout.
Because there's too much power involved in all this.
So I have another problem, Charlie. Let's say that we have alternative media and we got sources like us, and we try to convince the American people that we have to turn back. We have to get lawful. We have to repent of what we're doing. We have to turn back toward Yahweh, and we have to be lawful people again and demand our first right of self-defense again. And elect
as soon
leadership
as we start
and form
gaining
government.
Any traction like that here, we're going to be just obliterated. I mean, when you see this show go away and you see an obituary for Joe and Charlie, then you'll know that we finally got enough traction that they care.
Oh, they don't even have to kill us. They'll just squash the show.
Well, yeah, they don't.
Have you seen that Twitch has been sending us the emails that we're violating their terms of?
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh yeah, they're in our email and they're in our Gmail account. We've been violating also. Although they're allowing people to openly call for the murder and execution of Jews and all sorts of terrorist activities. That's all over the place right now. They're allowing that. They're allowing that. That's going uncensored. But what we're doing here is being shut down on Twitch, which means I'm probably sorry, Tortoise. I'm probably going to drop Twitch again. I want nothing to do with them.
Yeah. Well,
I don't. I want nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
They're evil.
They may just do it themselves and just.
I don't care. They're evil.
Whatever.
They're evil. Fine. Yeah, but that does in the way the algorithms work, that'll hurt us on our other platforms.
Well, that's possible.
So, folks, here's what I'm going to leave you with. Glenn Beck's wrong. If we don't have a national divorce at this point, the only other option is a civil war. But you and I, there is not enough of a stomach in this nation to do what needs to be done. You must purge the evil. And by that, I don't mean arrest in jail. I mean, you need to kill it. Send it on to the great judge of the universe. But you have to do that in a lawful way. And that has to be initiated by a duly instituted government with the popular support of the people. And that's not going to happen. So I'm telling you right now, what is going to happen to this nation? You're going the way of the dodo bird. Mm-hmm. This nation is in the process of decay and falling. It's collapsing. Yes. If we survive 200 or 300 years, which I don't think we're going to, but if that happens,
no, we're not going to.
They'll be reading about the fall of America in their history books.
Yes, I mean
it will have been suicide. It'll have been national suicide.
I mean, I don't like putting times out there, but if we last 2 more decades and don't become Venezuela in that time, it would surprise me. I mean, I would expect it's probably going to be in less than a decade. That
had I done the AI story I was going to do.
Oh gosh!
I don't think you got 5-10 years. You don't have.
You may not even have that one. Yeah. Oh gosh, some of the AI ads and stuff that they've got out there now, because they've got all these different celebrities and stuff that they've taken their images and likeness and their voice tracks and
AI is going to get better and better
and they've made them pretty good. I mean, if you don't recognize that that's AI, because I just know that certain people wouldn't do certain ads and
those people have sold their likenesses.
Well, some of them may have.
Well, what they do is they license their likeness, and then the person they license it with sells it to whoever they want. They have no say over that. Once they license their likeness, it can be used by anybody.
Yeah, but I don't even know if these people are going through that. I think they're just doing it, without even getting permission, and they're just, saying, "Oh, yeah, try to sue me. It's AI, so it's not really you. So how can you sue me for that?"
What Mr. Spikes says, we can't keep going like we are and expect for liberty to survive. What liberty, Mr. Spikes?
Yeah, what liberty?
You're not free.
Good point. We don't.
Everything you do has to be licensed and done by permission of the government these days. Every one of us violates at least 2 or 3 federal laws every single day we get up in the morning.
Yeah.
They can put us in jail anytime.
A day.
They can put us in jail anytime they want for anything they want. And who cares anymore? They can we've seen with Trump, they can literally trump charges up, write a law specifically so you can prosecute that man, which is unconstitutional, and get 34 convictions. And now he's a felon. The media said, but you know what? Trump was never convicted, folks. They never sentenced him, which means the case was never finished.
Oh,
The reason they never sentenced him is because the minute they do, all he does is appeal. They find out that the law they wrote under which they prosecuted him is unconstitutional. It's all vacated. And now he can sue the people who did that personally.
Yeah.
They're never going to sentence him. That all they wanted is to be able to say he's a 34-time convicted felon. He's not. Until you sentence, he's not convicted.
Yeah.
And why don't we know that? because we know everything there is to know about football, baseball, whatever sport you're following and whatever movie you're watching, TV show, and whatever game you know everything there is to know about that, but you don't know jack squat about how our legal system works or the civics or anything else that you should know.
That's just like locally here. We had a local city mayor here after Hurricane Michael came through that was brought up on trumped up charges. And she had like, I don't know, 60 or 70 charges against her. Eventually they dropped all but one. And she finally pled out to that one simply because she was tired of being
and that's how they work it.
The legal system.
And the reason they charged her was so they could steal an election.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. And I mean, it's ridiculous, but yeah, that's the way it works is they have weaponized even the legal system. But
yes, Marianne, we're getting ready to quit for today. They are trying to license an AI actress under contract and everything.
Yeah.
Hollywood when we do the AI show, Hollywood is not going to have an actor or an actress in it anymore within a few years. Hollywood is going to be entirely AI because they don't have to pay anybody for that.
Yeah, it'll all be animated and whatever and stuff through AI, just like they've done with the cartoons and all that. And
have you all seen some of the robots that they've made? Humanoid-looking robots that are. I've got a video that I ran across that it's a bunch of robots running a kitchen. There's not a human being in it. They're cooking. They're really cooking food, and there's not a person anywhere in there.
Yep.
So you're not even going to have your hamburger flipping jobs. And Elon Musk is going to take away. You do know that the largest single profession in the United States is driving, right? He's going to take that away within a decade.
Yep.
What are you going to do with all this massive unemployment? Now you understand why they're pushing basic.
Oh, gosh.
And as soon as they institute digital ID and cashless money, you are literally cannot buy or sell without the mark of the beast.
Mark of the beast.
But that's not the mark of the beast.
That's not the mark of the beast.
No. You cannot go to hell for something that's on your body.
You can't see the mark of the beast.
Right, exactly.
It's not a visible thing.
It's
I mean, there will be visible representations, but that's not going to be.
Yep. It's giving your allegiance to Satan through his visible earthly agent, the government. That's what that is. And that is coming so fast. And the only reason that it's going to succeed is because when people were warning us what was coming, when we still had time to do something, nobody wanted to listen to the conspiracy theorists. And now, please find me a conspiracy theory that was legitimately and rationally explained that has proven to be false. Can't find one. Well, 9/11, that was never been legitimately and rationally explained. Yeah, Joe, it was the CIA flew drones. And okay, then what happened to all the people that were on those planes? They're gone, folks. We did find parts of their body that we identified by DNA.
Yeah.
I personally know witnesses who were there that day who watched those planes fly. They had the America Airlines markings and everything. They saw them. This what you're looking at is tricks of bad photography and video.
And you could track the what do you call it? The transponder. That's what I'm thinking of. You
and there's like, well, then how did Muhammad, what's his name's passport get out, escape the fireball? It's easy, man. Did you see the last plane to hit, the second plane to hit the other tower? Have you ever seen the side where you see the nose of it come out? Well, he was flying. He's a pilot. His passport was probably on him when his body comes out with the cockpit that goes flying out the other side of the building. For crying out loud. Now, I like a good conspiracy. So you want to talk about one you can prove. Let's go talk about the Oklahoma Murrah building. We can prove that one was a government job. But all you can prove with 9/11 is they let it happen. Now, that I believe.
That.
You're going to have to start working to really cling to things that you can trust, that you've tested, or you're going to be fooled. And I'm going to tell you right now, probably the best way to do this, like they do with all these science fiction dystopia movies, turn off anything electronics and only trust stuff that was published, printed before AI came out.
Yeah.
Probably before 2020. If it wasn't printed before 2020, don't trust it. Just straight up, don't trust it. This is why I print out even articles that I find online that I find valuable. I copy and print them. And you have any idea how many times I go back to reread that article and find out it no longer matches the printed version? Why do you think I printed it? Anyway, we'll do a show on AI maybe next week. It'll scare the bejeebers out of you. I guarantee you. Now we'll do it on the 30th. Do it on the 30th, right before Halloween.
Yeah. I think that's a good day to do that show. Yeah.
All right. Tomorrow, book study. Until then, y'all take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Get closer to your family and friends. Know your neighbors. Make human contact. Get close to the scriptures. If you don't already know him, find the creator. If you already think you found him, get closer to him. His ways, not yours. Yes, sir?
I was just going to say Chag Sukkot Sameach. We're
Feast
still
of
in the
Booths,
middle of the week
Tabernacles.
of
Yes.
Tabernacles. So
Yahweh says, gorge yourself. It's fall
Yeah.
feasts.
yeah, fall feast. Enjoy yourself.
Get a little tipsy. We love you, folks. We do. May not seem like it sometimes, but we do. This doesn't bring me any joy to do these shows. If you think it does, you come visit sometimes. If you're ever in the neighborhood, come visit. Charlie will tell you I'm a real joy to be around when I'm talking honestly and openly when I'm not on air. I'm not depressed and I'm not apathetic. I'm just resigned to what I know is coming and there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm still trying to convince everybody I can to get on the ark. You'd be surprised how many don't want to do it because their denomination tells them I'm wrong. Or because my God's an evil, vengeful God. Well, yeah, he is, but he's not lawless. You just fallen for the lies. That's a personal battle you have to wrestle for yourself. I love you enough to let you have your own free will and not trample it. I will beg, cajole, urge, encourage, educate, not indoctrinate, educate as much as I can. But in the end, you have to work out your own salvation. For those who are trying to better understand the scriptures, we'll see you tomorrow when we go over the next 2 chapters of Dr. Heiser's book on the unseen realm. Until then, y'all take care, stay safe. Shalom.